It hit me like an epiphany. It washed over me after that, and I just became a part of that understanding of, if I continue to go through this cycle of anger, what else is waiting for me?
There is a huge value to anger as a reaction to that. That is a piece of this grieving process.
And I saw this opening of, this is your opportunity when anger is most justified in your life, where you turn to it and say, no, thank you.
Hello and welcome to Beauty in the Break. I'm Foster.
And I'm Cesar.
This is the podcast where we explore the moments that break us open and how we find beauty on the other side.
So whatever you're carrying today, you don't have to carry it alone. We are here with you.
Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Before we get started, I want to offer a content disclosure for today's episode. We are going to be talking about a sensitive subject for some people involving assault and suicidal ideation. If this is a difficult subject for you, please hit pause and come back to this episode only if and when you feel safe doing so. And now, on with the show.
Hello.
Hello.
What's going on?
I feel like I haven't seen you in a couple of days.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes we get into the thing where we're together, but for the sake of the kids or for the sake of an event. Mm-hmm. And then at some point it all transitions to the next moment and we look at each other and we go, hi.
Oh yeah, hi.
And we go, hi. In LA, when it rains, for the most part, people are kind of like glum about it. Mm-hmm. But considering all the stuff that's happened recently, everybody's thrilled for the rain. I see people going outside for no reason. And then the sun came out on top of it. So it kind of compounded the joy. Yeah. Everybody's outside. People in the streets like, no, you go first. No, you go first. No, it's okay.
I can't tell you how many texts I got this week of enjoy the rain. Yeah. Hope you're enjoying the rain. I'm like, last night I did not put my white noise on because I was like, no, I'm going to listen just to the rain.
Well, that's good.
Another thing that's been working for me is getting back into training.
With the exception of yoga, I haven't done any physical, demanding workout in almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. There has been a place in my head that just didn't want to do it. I'm not going to force myself to do it. I spent many years doing a lot of intense workouts. I wanted to give myself the space. So I used to be able to go extreme as much as I want to, but I can't do that anymore. It's the incident that happened to me some years ago. I now have pains in my stomach from scar tissue from the surgery. I'm reminded of my strength, how I've been able to get to this point in my life, and also my fragility.
Yeah, well, let's paint the picture. Also, you were a boxer for many years. So you were in prime physical condition. Let's get into what changed for you.
Yeah, physically. Yeah.
Physically. Yeah. So a couple of episodes ago, I shared probably the most pivotal moment of my life thus far, which was the loss of my son Wild, which is in episode 3. We'll link that in the show notes. And I would venture to say this might be one of the most pivotal points in your life.
I would say this is probably the worst night of my life. About 6 years ago, 6 years ago, I was assaulted by a group of men. Horrible, painful, absolutely demonstrably tragic. Every day now gives me an opportunity to think about it and also to realize where I am, because I almost wasn't here.
So let's go back to the night of what happened. I know there's a lot here. Take me back to this night of this event.
Typically, when I think about it to my own self, my own life, I think about the circumstances of who I was as a person. First off, I wasn't being healthy to my own self. I was in an unhealthy relationship as well. I wasn't tending to myself in a healthy manner. I didn't even love myself. But what's more is that I'm going out in the world, participating in things that I shouldn't be participating in anyway. Spending time with people that I don't need to be around. These people are not focused in a way that I want to be focused in my life. I came to Los Angeles to be a musician and to help connect people. And instead, I was being more divisive and being loathing to my own self and putting things in my body that are harmful and being risky in my life, just not good. Nonetheless, I was out at a bar with my partner at the time, and there was a woman who was talking to somebody, and we had talked to her briefly as well. And she looks to me and she mouths the word, "Help me." Now, I remember her face saying that. I remember her eyes, very detailed. I remember that very much. I don't remember anything else around that, but I remember that moment. So my partner and I at the time walked over, we put our arm around her, and we said to the guy that she was talking to, "Hey, she's with us. We're together. We're friends. We're whatever. She's not interested." He didn't like that, and a pushing match started. And then at some point, my partner and I left the bar. The security was like, "You guys, you should go." When we were outside, we went to go walk back to our car. He went and got about 2 to 3 of his other friends. They went outside, and there's multiple entrances and exits to this place. And they went outside, came up behind us, and hit us from behind and knocked me down. They knocked my partner down. One of the guys hit her and held her down. I tried to get up, and someone pushed me back down. They started kicking my abdomen and stomping on my head and my face on the concrete. The police report says that I tried to get up again, and they pushed me back down. And then at some point, they kicked me, and I completely went unconscious. While I'm unconscious, they didn't stop. They kept kicking. At one point, one of them picked me up by the shirt while I was unconscious and kept hitting me, and then they dropped me and started stomping on me again. Eventually, security and some other Good Samaritan came and kind of broke it up, and those men who assaulted me, they ran off. I'm completely in the middle of the street. I'm unconscious. To this day, I have no recollection of this. You know what? I remember one thing. There was a moment where I remember feeling the concrete on my head. I opened my eyes and my mouth was full of liquid. And obviously it was blood, but I don't remember tasting blood. I remember feeling like I woke up and I had the same feeling you feel if someone pulls you from underwater. And then I remember something in me was saying, "Drop your head, close your eyes. It's much better over there." And I went back.
They did all that to you. What kind of injuries occurred after that?
They had kicked me so hard and knocked me unconscious while continuously kicking and stomping on me. They fractured my right eye socket. They fractured the walling of my nose. I don't know what the phrase is for that. They smashed the forefront of my teeth. They were completely out of my head. Your teeth are attached to what's called a bridge. It's the space that is the bone that's behind your lip, your top lip. That was completely smashed. In addition to that, my tongue, the front of it from being kicked, was about 80% removed from the rest of the tongue. And it was bleeding. In the ambulance, they had to, while I was awake, they had to just cut off that piece that was left. There's a charge for that. It's called mayhem, actually, which I've always found that a little comical. And then on top of that, they were kicking my abdomen, and they didn't puncture my stomach, but they did puncture my bladder. So at some point, they put me into the ambulance, and I woke up and started saying that I had to pee. And so they cut my jeans and said, "You can," and I couldn't. Now that's when the ambulance knew that something was wrong. And my stomach had started to swell. With a punctured bladder, it doesn't take much for you to have an infection, for things to bleed internally, and you could die. Not to mention all my head trauma.
Okay, so you're in the ambulance. They've just torn off a piece of your tongue. You get to the hospital, what next?
I have no recollection of any of this. Head trauma will make you forget like the hour before, and then who knows how long after. Even though I was conscious.
Which is such an interesting note, right? That your brain protects you in that way so that perhaps you don't have to relive that in your memory.
I would even take it a step further and say there's something in us that will remove you from that sort of situation, because when I was a teenager, I was troublemaker. And there was so many times I could see myself doing things, but I didn't feel what was going on. There's some part of you that's like, we're taking you out of this because this is animalistic and you should be something else. You're, whatever. Yeah. So after that, I had to go into surgery immediately. They tried non-invasive to see what was going on and they weren't able to. So they had to cut my stomach open from the top of the belly button to my pubic bone. And then they found that my bladder had been ruptured. They stitched closed my bladder and then stapled closed my stomach, which, if I may say, that is one of the most painful things in the whole world for the next few weeks. It is brutal. Oh. You use your stomach to laugh, to cough, to sneeze, to talk. Sneezing was horrible, to have about 15 staples in your stomach. Mm-hmm. And every single time you're about to sneeze, you know it's coming.
You have to put a pillow over it. It's the same with cesarean, too.
Yeah.
Recovering from abdominal surgery is no joke.
Yeah. I wish I knew that.
What do you remember? At some point, you woke up.
I looked the nurse in the eye, waking up from surgery, and I said, "I'm dead, right?" And she said, "No, you're not." I said, "Just do me a favor. I've had enough of a life. I've seen enough. I don't want to be here anymore. I am tired. Can you please kill me?" And of course, she said no. And they rolled me through the hallway. When I rolled into my room, it looked straight down into the bathroom, and there was a mirror there. And I got to see myself for the first time. And I saw my face and my lips covered in blood, no teeth in the front. My eye pushed in, my nose smashed. Everything about my body hurt. Everything about my soul hurt. I was an atheist at that time. And everything that I couldn't even put words to because I didn't believe in that stuff at the time hurt. I rolled through there, saw myself in the mirror, and I said, "Damn." Verbally. My partner had called my sister because it was the middle of the night. My sister waited until daytime to call my mom for the beautiful generosity of her. But I think about my sister often having to sit with that thought. Yeah. Because my partner called my sister while I was in surgery. So there's all these question marks. Mm-hmm. Now, because my stomach was cut open, I couldn't walk. If you try to stand up from a chair, first thing you're going to use is your core. I couldn't do it. Because I had no teeth, because my tongue was cut off, because my lips were swollen, I couldn't eat. Couldn't talk. I felt like a baby. Oh. It felt like being an infant, and I needed to be tended to.
When your mom flew out, tell me the story of what happened when she came out.
Yeah. So my mother, I'm her golden child. My mother adores me, and I love her just the same. I'll never forget this. I was sitting on that L-shaped couch. My mom walks in, goes straight to me, and just starts kissing my face. Looks me in the eyes, makes a full 180, goes straight to the bathroom, and vomits. In that moment, my first thought was, what have I done to my mom? I didn't deserve that attack. And also, I don't need to be in situations like that. I didn't need to be there at 11:30 at night, just hanging around.
Oh, I just feel that pain of a mother, like to not react to your face and not to show you what's happening to her inside. You know, it's that the ultimate duality of motherhood. I must protect my baby, and I cannot stand anything to happen to my child.
Yeah.
I love your mother so much for that.
Yeah, she's a wonderful woman. There is something to be said about wanting to help somebody and getting this in response. There's something to be said about wanting to save the day and getting that.
Do you regret helping that woman?
No. Nope. Not one bit. Not one bit whatsoever. I have no regrets in helping that woman. And for so long, there was a voice in my head that said, this is why people aren't good. This is why they don't go out of their way to help. This is why people are evil.
It's like a no good deed goes unpunished.
Right. And this was maybe one of the ultimate punishments.
What was your recovery process like from all of that?
It took me a long time to heal again. I was still a physical trainer, so I couldn't train. I couldn't work. The recovery process was slow and daunting. The very first time I was able to go shower, I got in the shower. I was with my partner at the time, and she got in the shower with me to help because I couldn't stand on my own. And then at some point, the water washed over my eyes, and I closed my eyes, and then I could feel water in my mouth again. And it immediately made me cry. And she had to hold me while I was in that shower crying because it felt exactly like that moment where I was on the ground and I came to for that split second. Time goes by and I'm doing what I can to learn to eat again, learn to walk again. It is actually like a rebirth.
What happened with your teeth?
Somewhere in the street, gone. The process of the healing was the worst. Any food, because it's the gum line was ripped open, the tongue was ripped open. Any food with any flavor burned my entire mouth. I had to live in LA for 4 or 5 months with no teeth in the front. One, that is a thing of vanity because we live in a city where people are good looking. Yes to that. But two, is something else to be said about you have to go out into the world looking like that. I had a lisp. I couldn't. Anytime I would sleep on my back, I just remembered this. Because my mouth wouldn't close fully if I slept on my back, any saliva would go to the back of my throat and I would cough. So I would be woken up to cough out of nowhere with a stapled stomach.
Oh.
In complete misery, this pulling pain at my stomach.
I'm reminded of, what is the myth of dragging the rock up the hill? What's
Sisyphus.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sisyphus. That, like I do this and then I get hit the other way and I'm knocked down again and I try to do this and I can't.
Yeah.
It's just a brutal process.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember feeling that and feeling that running that ball up the hill and it just being tumbling back down. And every single time I grew more anger and my anger started building up.
This was another version of you, though. This was a person who was very angry at the time. Most people today don't know that version of you. You're a much more calm and peaceful person. So I imagine you couldn't work for a while in this recovery, but your business was working with clients. How did that affect your business and your clientele in those weeks, months?
The irony of being a physical trainer and not being physical, your own self. Took me a while to leave the house for periods of time, let alone driving with the seatbelt because the band goes around your stomach. By the time I was able to, I couldn't work out with the client. I would have to just give them things to do. I lost about a handful of clients, which is a good amount. And then the clients that stayed were there for me. If I needed to move something, they said, I'll move it. One client in particular, when I showed up to her for the first time, she handed me 2 to 3 checks. And she said, I already had budget for it anyway. I'm sure you need this money. Take it.
From what I understand, this event and incident really, you said, rebirthed you and changed you.
Yeah. I grew up around angry people, yelling people, and I thought that's just the way it was. And I inherited that and started living my life with anger and yelling and violence and loud volumes to make my point. To be at this almost ground zero for my body and my mind, the first thing that comes up is to go back to the anger.
Oh, rightfully so. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
You tried to help someone and this happened to you. You didn't ask for it. You didn't provoke them. And they piled on you and you were completely outnumbered and you were unconscious. Like there is a huge value to anger as a reaction to that. That is a piece of this grieving process. That is a valid response, I would say.
Very much. One of the guys in the police record, he's 6'2", 220.
Jeez.
I'm 5'10", at best 160. So much of me wanted to feel anger in order to feel revenge.
If it were me, I would be constantly thinking about these people that you have no recollection of, and these people that hurt you in this way, was that on your mind in these early days and weeks after? Were you thinking about who they were? Where are they? What are we going to do about it?
Yes, especially and particularly through the filter of anger. A small percentage of fear also, because I don't remember what they look like.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What if they just see me? I don't know what to do with that. Putting together the story as much as possible was by way of asking my partner. I called the detective to go over the case. He was gathering the video footage of the entire location. He said he would let me know what he found, if he found the people. And a lot of those thoughts were almost instantly stopped by saying, you shouldn't have been there anyway. You deserve this. This is what happens in this world. This is why you don't want to be here to begin with.
Did you think it was your fault this happened to you?
You know, there's a part of me that thinks you don't need to be in that environment of things you don't like anyway. I didn't like loud, crowded places to begin with. Yet I'm putting myself in places that I don't want to be anyhow because I didn't stop and say, if you don't like it, don't do it. There's that self-loathing again.
It's such a long recovery process, and there's a lot of ongoing pain. What was your pain management look like? Was it healthy? Was it not healthy? What did you use to manage the pain?
Not healthy. At the time, I didn't have any healthy coping methods in my life ever. I already wasn't loving myself anyway. They gave me medication that helped. And then at some point, I started drinking to kind of numb myself. I started using other drugs as well to just get out of it. Just to wake up with it all just waiting for me again. And now more struggles from using and overindulging. And
I got to imagine looking in the mirror ongoing with no teeth and all of this bruising is very painful to relive every time you walked past a mirror. So at what point did that normalize for you, or did you start to feel like yourself again?
Never. No, I don't feel like myself. It's always there. It's always going to be there. When I saw myself in the mirror, it looked like something I deserved because I grew up self-loathing. And today, I love myself and I look at myself in the mirror and I still see the scars. Mirror stayed the same. I changed.
Were these men held accountable for what they did to you?
The detective was able to get names of these people and have footage as well. So he'd look up their social media profile, look at the video, and put them together. The question often went from whether 4 people or 3 people. It seemed like 4 often. And then the video showed that the 4th person was the one going in there to help break it up. It took him a year to get enough evidence for it because the charges are assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault, and mayhem. Mayhem is what's called when you cause injury to somebody and a piece of their body is removed.
So the deadly weapon is their hands. They were using, right?
Their hands, their shoes, I suppose, maybe. Their feet, stomping. Aggravated assault clearly is, I'm just unconscious. My partner had said multiple times in speaking to the detective, it looked like Gumby, the way he was just being flung around.
God, it must have been so hard for her to watch that.
She had a tough time with it. I am forever grateful for her because she tended to me. There's love in my heart for her for the rest of my life. So once they arrested them, they started to build the case because of the footage and because of the eyewitnesses.
Gosh, okay. So for so long, these were these mystery men who you had a lot of anger towards. And then they find them and they arrest them. What is it like now to know that they're detained and also that they have an identity?
Yeah, the entire year was led up to this, again, this mystery. It feels like a spirit or a ghost or a monster because you can't humanize them because you don't know what they look like. And your mind is going to put in the worst case scenario.
Right.
I chose to, at one point, there was a arraignment or hearing for one of them. I chose to go to one of them. I still didn't know what he looked like. So I went there. I was Again, a year and a half had gone by now. I have my injuries still, but I was mobile enough. If you meet me now, you can't tell something wrong until I tell you. I just deal with the pain. And I'm sitting in the room while the arraignment's happening. And it was one of those where like multiple people are getting called up, right? I don't know what he looks like. And then I turn to my right and I look at someone and he looks me dead in the eyes. And somehow I go, oh, that's him. That's the guy. And he saw me after that and then just stared. There wasn't a feeling of anger or malice or any of that. He just, it almost like he got to see me as the human I was.
Mm.
He just saw me.
I have to imagine if he wondered whether or not you were alive or dead. I mean, you very well could have been dead. All along the way, there were so many opportunities for you to have passed. I wonder what he thought.
Well, time comes that both of them are soon to be sentenced. The judge got message to me if I would like him to give them maximum sentencing. Now, here's where that anger comes in. Here's where I realize, oh, these are 3 felonies. I can be this is my chance to really give it back to them. Mm-hmm. And then it was in that moment I realized if I'm speaking and living and choosing from that anger, then they have assaulted me every day of my life. And I realized and I saw this opening of this is your opportunity when anger is most justified in your life, where you turn to it and say, no, thank you. For once, I'm going to choose peace.
How did you come up with that, though? Because in every other situation, and pretty much anybody else's case, that it would feel right to get the justice. How did you? I mean, you got justice, but how did that idea pop into your head?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. That's not in accord with who I am as a person, all the way up until that age. It hit me like an epiphany. It washed over me after that, and I just became a part of that understanding of if I continue to go through this cycle of anger, what else is waiting for me? These people are also angry. And look what they did. Why would I want to give that back out? It's going to make them more angry, and they're going to have a miserable life, and they might do it again to someone else. I can't be accountable for that. It hit me, and it's clear as a California day. And instead, I told the judge, you apply the sentence that you think is most necessary. They still were accountable for so many things. There were still so many effects to their cause they had to face. For me to push and poke that is only activating fire in me. Nobody out there can make me angry. I make me angry. As I work through that as much as possible, even though I really wanted to, of course. But for once, I saw this whole new door. There was a wall there before, and I saw a door. And I had been in this other door for 28 years of my life. At the very least, give that door a chance. And I walked through it. I turned back around, and that door was gone. And I felt more relieved than I ever had been. And then at some point in the future, I was with a friend of mine, and she wanted to watch the news. And the news was on about a person who had been murdered. And they caught the assaulter, the murderer. And then they interviewed the family, and the family said, we forgive him. And my friend said, I don't know how somebody could forgive them. And it hit me. I go, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. That's me. Mm-hmm. That's me. And I could see myself in that person. And finally, I understood why people forgive, why people understand forgiving, because you'll carry that with you for the rest of your life, that misery.
I almost wonder if it's like there's all this, we have generational trauma and we have, cycles of anger that are passed down, but also passed around within a community. If violence begets violence, it's continuing. And like you're saying, you're some version of a cycle breaker in that, whereas the anger, you received the anger and you said, you soothed it and you said, it stops with me here. And you didn't pass it along. Almost like karma. I don't know a lot about karma, but that almost like that you kind of put that fire out. The anger was in you already. The anger was in those people, and you actually just smoldered that fire right there.
You're right. You're 100% right. Karma, the Sanskrit word, it means fruitive action. So the action you do fruits more life. And in that fruit, there's a seed, and the cycle keeps going. So your fruitive action can be determined, is that fruit bitter or is it sweet?
Right.
What are you going to do with that? And the cycle continues until you extinguish that, which, by the way, extinguish is the word in Sanskrit is nirvana. So I can extinguish that fire, that rage that was within me. And in that moment, I learned the deep value of self-love because I didn't need to feed into that. Because I said, no, I'm okay here.
What do you think about the people that did that to you? What do you think about them now today?
Today, I wholeheartedly hope that they have some sort of revelation in their version that I had for me. And I hope that they feel something close to peace of some sort of transition in their life that everybody deserves to have because they were angry also.
This must make you look at the world differently today.
Well, one, I see a lot of anger in the world because I see that version of myself in people. Two, I see how this happens in the world. There also was a line of people outside there that just watched it happen to me. Some people don't want to participate because of what could happen to them. There's a deep sense of awareness of here and now because I asked the nurse to kill me, that now somehow in this place where I am now is almost like a bonus because I could have died. And then I asked for it as well. So both sides, the external and the internal, wanted to go, and they both weren't given that. There's a part of me that feels like all of this is a bonus. So why shouldn't I be kind, be peaceful, work through it on my own, and share this sort of story, to talk about it? Because if I go out in the world and I am the person that I am now, and then I tell them what happened to me, they see an example of somebody who went through the worst thing, and they still came out shining.
I think what's so interesting in knowing you, and you and I have known each other just over a year, not that long. And everything I know about you, the you before this accident and the choices you were making at the time, the kind of person you are in the world, and who I know you to be now, your appearance, your hair, but also how you operate in the world is completely night and day. Like I don't recognize you in the videos I see of you from 7-8 years ago. I don't recognize the person that I know. To me, it feels like a rebirth in the retelling of this story, but what does it feel like to you, the before and after?
Absolutely. It's a complete rebirth. It is, and I've said this multiple times. I was an atheist. So I feel like there was nothing after any of this, but instead I'm a very spiritual man who believes in God in some capacity. But I really believe there is something larger, bigger, more dynamic than what I just have here. Both of those came around, and there was new growth from there. And then physically, I had to learn how to walk again like a baby, eat, be fed like a baby. I had to be tended to like a child. That's a rebirth on its own.
And that part of you had to die almost.
Absolutely. Had to. Absolutely. And this is you watch any movie, read any narrative, anything whatsoever. There's a time in all stories where the character in the story either actually dies or comes really close to it or has this dark night of the soul. That's the death, because there needs to be the resurrection afterwards. There needs to be this sort of shedding of the old way for the new way.
It has been 6 years since the accident, but in preparation for telling us your story today and not having told it anywhere else before, you had to research the police report and watch videos of what happened to you. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. To go back through the police reports, I had to see the photos of me lying on the ground. I had to read the step-by-step moments of what happened. I remember reading it the first time and also when I read it this last time. My body just kind of gets numb. My whole body, I stop feeling what I'm touching, what I'm sitting on or laying on or whatever it is, goes completely numb. When they were arrested, I was shown the video then in front of a lot of people. I had to see it happen to me. I had to hear my partner screaming for help. And I had to watch my own body be just tossed around. The malice of them kicking and stomping me. I had to watch that happen. It almost seemed as if they hoped I died. It almost seemed like they didn't even care for my human life. I don't think anybody should have to watch themselves go through that. Some part of me felt like, you poor boy.
Mm-hmm.
It was like watching my little brother go through it. To go back to what you're saying, is 6 years later, my body still hurts. My stomach hurts. There's always pressure in the front of my mouth. I didn't know this, but a good amount of your tongue will grow back. It took me about 4 years until my front of my tongue wasn't numb. It's back to normal now. There's a bit of fluttering sometimes on this side for my eye. I got not much air going through this nostril for me. And I am at the most peaceful place in my life because I didn't follow through with that anger that was there. I was literally broken. And from that comes the beauty of peace and self-love and not shooting back at somebody because they mistreated you. Their karma is their karma. It's not my karma. And that still to this day, 6 years later, makes me feel lighter than ever because I didn't act on that deep anger. And I live from that now as a Buddhist who understands compassion, loving kindness, and the unity between me and everybody else in the world. Because I was hurt, they were hurt. And for them to hurt me, they've hurt themselves. And if the cycle continues for them, I hope it doesn't, but I'm not going to be a part of it. I refuse to be a part of it.
Thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for always being there for me.
I love you and I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
If this episode spoke to you, take a moment and send it to someone else who might need it. That's the best way to spread these conversations to the people who need them the most. And if you want to keep exploring with us, make sure to follow Beauty in the Break wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.
Beauty in the Break is created and hosted by Foster Wilson and Cesar Cardona. Our executive producer is Glenn Milley. Original music by Cesar and the Clue.